My wife worked as a cashier at a gas station and often came home exhausted, especially in the summer, when traffic on the highway became more intense. Because of this, she often refused to fulfill her marital duty, preferring to set aside this time for sleep. Marina is a pretty noticeable woman who, as they say, is in the juice. For her 37 years old, she has a great figure, a slim waist and a size 5 chest. Maybe that's why I'm still strongly attracted to her, and I'm wildly jealous of her, even though I've been married for 15 years. We lived amicably and quietly, but only until the authorities put my wife on a shift schedule. Since then, it's like she's been replaced. First of all, she changed her hairstyle and hair color. I took it calmly, especially since the white color suited her. After a couple of months, Marina started visiting the fitness center and the pool in her free time, which had a very positive effect on her figure. I was glad she was having a good time, but something about all this confused me. One day, while cleaning, I discovered bright red lace underwear, on which quite revealing cutouts were made. It was from that moment that I started to get nervous, because she never wore such things in front of me. That evening, I asked my wife who this kit was for. My wife lowered her eyes and quietly said that she was preparing a surprise for me. I didn't know whether to believe her or not, but that night I demanded to wear it. I was a little surprised, but she did not even refuse, as before, but on the contrary, as if she was waiting for such an evil instruction. We were tumbling all night. Fortunately, my son was in the village. But this process brought me far from positive emotions. I think many men will judge me now, because since then my wife has been fulfilling all my whims in the bedroom, actively making contact herself and looking incomparable. Every day she became more and more beautiful, while buying more and more erotic lingerie, various creams and making bright and beautiful makeup. I was sure that the reason for such a change lay in the unknown suitor she had made for herself. But every time I asked her about the reasons for the change of image and such a fierce thirst for intimacy with me, she replied that she was trying solely for my sake. However, something didn't add up in the whole story. I surreptitiously looked through her phone, social media, and email correspondence, but everything was clean. I recorded the data on calls and messages, also clean. Then I turned to my colleague, who was well versed in computers and various programs. Of course, I didn't tell him that I felt like a cuckold and wanted to check on my wife. A colleague downloaded an application to my USB stick, explained how to use it, and gave me tips on how to trick an antivirus program that can block this entire procedure. I was restless all day, going over various scenarios and possible outcomes in my head. As luck would have it, the boss overwhelmed me with work, which is why I returned home very late. I no longer looked at her computer, looking forward to the next day. Although my wife and I spent a crazy night together again, on the second day my suspicions intensified. She wore a low-cut sweater to work. Marina had never allowed herself to do this before, even when we first started dating. I asked her why she dresses like this, to which I heard a strange answer that she feels more confident this way. Then my nerves completely gave out, and I demanded that she immediately change her sweater. This turned her on terribly, and she pulled me back into the bedroom. What was happening to her was completely incomprehensible to me, because my wife had been completely different before. In the evening, after work, I immediately rushed home. Overcome with excitement, I booted up the USB drive and took out a piece of paper on which all the instructions were written. After completing all the steps, I pressed enter and waited. I don't know, unfortunately or fortunately, nothing new has loaded. I thought all night and only realized in the morning that she probably had a second phone. Having searched the entire apartment inside and out, I have not found any evidence that would somehow explain to me the reasons for such a change in my wife. The only thing I found in her mailbox was a lot of literature on the topic of intimate relationships. I dropped my hands and became depressed. A close friend of mine noticed my suffering and asked what was the matter. I shared my feelings with him and asked what he would do in such a situation. At first, he didn't take me seriously, saying only that he would be happy if he were in my place. When he saw that I wasn't laughing, he apologized and asked why I just didn't come home early, as all spouses do who feel that something is wrong. My mood instantly improved, because this is a great opportunity to immediately understand what is really going on. I took time off from the boss, citing ill health. He let me go without question, and I quickly rushed home. When I opened the door, melodious music came from the bedroom. I didn't even take off my shoes out of surprise. When I opened the door, I saw something that is not shown in all adult films. My painted wife was lying on the bed with absolutely nothing. To melodic rhythms, she squirmed on the webcam, holding a male object in her hand for pleasure. This surprised me very much, because I did not come across him during the search. Not wanting to see this mess anymore, I clapped my hands and shouted, "Bravo!" My wife even jumped in surprise. She hurriedly turned off the camera and cried in shame. I interrogated her, from which I learned that it had been going on for 3 months. Some people even transfer money to her for such explicit video chats. However, my wife assured me that she was not doing this for the money. Such a pastime helps her to relax and gain self-confidence. Everything that the men on the other side of the camera want to do to her, she carries into her life and thus expresses herself. I felt so bad that I wanted to go outside and clean myself up. My wife did not allow me to do this and, taking my hands, began to talk about how she loves me exclusively and never even thought of cheating on me physically. I tried to twist away to leave as soon as possible, but she wouldn't let me. I asked her why she needed all sorts of strange men to look at her for self-expression, because she could dance for her lawful spouse. My wife wiped her tears, which were black because of the mascara, and looked at me. Taking a deep breath, she said that it did not give her the extreme that she feels from such video chats. I was shocked by what was said. After telling her that I needed to think, I went out onto the balcony. After lighting a cigarette, I tried to analyze the situation in order to figure out how to live on. Physically, she was faithful to me, and she had fun to free herself, but on the other hand, she shamed me. My wife promised to stop all this, just so that I wouldn't file for divorce. After living apart for a few weeks, I realized that I really miss my wife, so I returned. Now we watch adult movies and experiment together in the bedroom.